Welcome to the webinar on tips and tricks for applying to the Society for Research in Child Development's U.S. State Policy Fellowship Program. My name is Kelly Fisher, Director for Policy at SRCD.
And I'm Ruth Friedman. I help lead the State Policy Fellowship Program.
I will begin with an overview of the application process timeline. During Step 1, applicants will submit a letter of intent by January 3rd. During Step 2, SRCD will notify applicants of their application status at the end of January. Select applicants will be invited to submit a full application. During Step 3, invited applicants will submit their full applications by the end of February. The specific deadline will be relayed in the invitation. Lastly, during Step 4, SRCD will send fellowship offers in May.
So let's start with the first step in the state fellowship application process, and that's submitting a letter of intent. For pre-doctoral applicants, this letter can be submitted either jointly by the fellowship applicant and your academic mentor, or it can be submitted by just an interested academic mentor who will identify a fellowship candidate if invited to submit a full application. For postdoctoral applicants, there's only one way to do this. The letter must be submitted jointly by the applicant and by the person you've identified to be your academic mentor. So let's go over some tips and tricks. And we're going to focus on the pre-doctoral students first. So the first thing that needs to happen is you need to identify a state office or division that implements the state pre-K program. Remember that this fellowship is an immersive experience, so make sure the location of the state office is a place you can get to at least twice a week. Once you've identified the right agency, office, or division, you need to connect with the state to discuss a fellowship placement. You can contact the state office yourself, or you can find a faculty member at your institution who does policy-relevant research, or maybe has worked with the state, or is willing to contact the state on your behalf or knows a contact for you to use. Pre-doctoral applicants also need to have an academic mentor as part of their application process and their fellowship year. Remember that applicants apply jointly with a faculty member who is willing to serve as your mentor throughout the year. This can be your main advisor, or it can be another faculty member at your institution. You just need to be sure that the faculty member is able to commit to the mentoring activities specified by SRCD on our webpage, and they must be willing to jointly submit a letter of intent and a full application if invited. Now let's go over some tips and tricks for postdoctoral applicants. You must identify a state office or division that focuses on early childhood policy. Remember that this fellowship is an immersive experience, so make sure the location of the state office is somewhere you can be full-time. Once you've identified the right agency, office, or division, you need to connect with the state to discuss a fellowship placement. You may absolutely contact the state office yourself, but you can also consider if there is a faculty member at your prior institution or at another university or research organization who could perhaps connect you to the state. Maybe someone who has worked with the state in the past and is willing to reach out on your behalf, or knows who you should contact in the state. Postdoctoral fellows also need to identify an academic mentor for this fellowship. Your mentor can come from a research organization or from a university. This could be someone from your own graduate institution, but it doesn't have to be. The person you identify must be willing to jointly submit a letter of intent with you and a full application if you're invited to submit one. They also must be able to commit to the mentoring activities as specified by SRCD and that you can find on our webpage. Now let's take a look at the full application process for pre-doctoral applicants. SRCD will review the letters of intent and determine who will be selected to submit a full application. If you're invited to submit a full application, we're going to need the following. We're going to need a statement of interest and a current CV from the applicant, and 2 letters of recommendation. From the academic mentor, we're going to need a statement of interest and a current CV. And from the state agency, we're going to need a statement of interest and a letter of commitment. It's also important to note that if the academic mentor you've chosen for this fellowship is not the applicant's doctoral program advisor, then SRCD needs a brief letter of support from the graduate program chair indicating that the student's participation in the program will be keeping with requirements and progress towards the doctorate. This does not need to have a lot of details, but SRCD wants to make sure that your graduate program supports you doing this fellowship. For postdoctoral applicants, the full application, if you're invited to submit one, will need to include a statement of interest, a current CV, and 3 letters of recommendation. From the academic mentor, we're going to need a statement of interest and a current CV. And from the state agency, we're going to need a statement of interest and a letter of commitment. Let's discuss a few tips and tricks for the application. It is really important that you address all of the requested information in the statement of interest. Make sure you demonstrate your academic background in child development and your research skills. Be clear about why you are interested in this fellowship, including policy areas or issues of interest and the skills you are hoping to achieve. For postdoc applicants in particular, that should include talking about your career goals and how the fellowship would support those goals. The narrative is relatively short, so you may want to plan your references with that in mind. Talk with those who will submit letters of reference and identify specific areas you would like for them to address. For instance, have your letter writers identify different skills or background that will help you in the fellowship. Have them communicate more details about your research methods and how it contributes to the field more broadly. And make sure you understand the goals of the fellowship. SRCD has placed a lot of information about the fellowship online, so make sure you've reviewed it. We think you will find it really helpful to read over some of the portfolio abstracts by former state fellows that we have placed online. These short abstracts will give you a better understanding of the type of work that gets done during the fellowship year. Also, if you would like to contact a former state fellow with specific questions, let us know and we would be happy to connect you. And if you are planning on applying to a state where we have previously had a fellow, it would be a good idea to connect with them. Thank you and good luck with your application. If you have questions, please do not hesitate to contact our office.